Okay, good evening, everyone. Have we got all our pitches for tonight? Pictures? 7 more early years researchers presenting their work for you tonight. This is the last of the 3 sessions, so when we finish tonight, we'll have heard from 21 of the early year researchers who've got, whose posters are among the posters that you've been looking at the last 2 days or so around this floor. The vote, just one thing to say is the voting's closed, so you can't vote for your favourite poster any longer. That's all closed, and the results will be announced tomorrow morning. So here we go, and first up tonight, we've heard a lot today about risk communication strategies, about engaging the public and stakeholders, and we're going to have a 3-minute presentation now from Madalena Radu of the University of Stirling, who's going to talk to us about how we learn more about how consumers want us to communicate risk.
Thank you. Is it working? Yes. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Madalena, and I am a PhD student at University of Stirling, and I'm also working in collaboration with Food Standards Scotland. Today, I will present you our work on investigating consumers' view on food safety campaigns perceived as influential in changing their food handling behavior. It is well known that the risk communication plays an important role in public health policies, as it can help to decrease the risk of food poisoning and their consequences. But despite previous food safety campaigns, the number of foodborne cases haven't decreased. And for example, in Scotland, there are around 43,000 reported cases every year. Notwithstanding the personal pain and suffering, a foodborne incident can lead to high economic costs, and in severe and extreme cases can lead even to death. This is why in this study we aim to address the following questions. What type of food safety campaigns are more likely to change consumers' food handling behavior? How does this differ by different consumer segments? And also, how does the framing used in a campaign influence consumers' choices? In order to answer these questions, we have developed an online survey study that helped us to explore consumers' preferences for food safety campaigns. We used mixed methods such as literature review, focus groups, and also think aloud interviews. And also we used econometric models to find out how consumers trade off between different food safety campaign characteristics. For example, for consumer, is it more important the style of a campaign, or it is more important the format of a campaign? So far, our results show that consumers find the format of a campaign very important, but their choices differ given their age, given the area where they live in, and given also if they have children or don't have children, or if they have had any experience of foodborne illnesses. Also, it was shown that every time when consumers were reminded about their own responsibility to take actions in order to decrease their food poisoning risk, they have changed their choices. This is why our research will enable us to contribute to designing future safety campaigns, not only based on how consumers see these campaigns, but also based on who these consumers are. Thank you very much, and for more details, please come and see me at 135.
Thank you very much, Madalena. That was very interesting. Shows you how research on science communication can help people like me, communicators, to talk about really, really complex things. And I'm sure our next presenter, who's more in the human health area, is going to have a bit of a challenge just to read out the title of her poster in 3 minutes. But anyway, I welcome up onto the stage Bettina Seger from Hanover Veterinary Medicine Foundation. Good luck. 3 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you for having me. So we might keep the title short. So we want to do a test to an alternative to animal experiments to test botulinum toxins, and therefore we want to generate the perfect motoneuron. So we use induced pluripotent stem cells from humans and differentiate them to progenitor cells, and they should express this OLIC2, and we want to give out those cells to the users of the test later, so this point of the cells is pretty important. And later we generate motoneurons, and those should perfectly have motoneuron markers and also the targets for different botulinum toxins. And the ones which are used as pharmacons are, for example, the serotype 1 and 2, A and B. And those should express the receptors. And, for example, also gangliosides, the protein part of the receptors, and the substrate. And there are many more serotypes from A to H. And so we want to have our motoneurons is the aim to have all those markers. And so we generated our progenitor cells, which should express a lot of OLIC2. And later we generated motoneurons based on 3 different differentiation protocols. And we see in the end that the different protocols from the different papers we use give another expression of motoneuron markers and of OLIC2, you see here. And also it's correlated to the expression of motoneuron markers later. And the target structures are the other way around. So it might be that in the end the perfect motoneuron is not the perfect target for botulinum toxins. So our progenitor cells, which express a lot of OLIC2, showed a lot of motoneuron markers, but it did not correlate with the target expression for botulinum toxins. So the next step will be to find out if those motoneurons are functional and which are the most sensitive to the different serotypes of botulinum toxins. And so, yeah, does the sensitivity of motoneurons to botulinum toxins depend more on motoneuron identity or on an expression of botulinum toxin targets? That's what we want to know in the end. And so I thank you for your attention, and if you like my work or are interested in the work we do, please come to poster number 50. There's my email address written down, so just don't hurry and ask questions. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bettina. The next pitch, despite the title, was actually included in the theme Staying Relevant in a Changing World, because it touches on a very, very modern issue, which is in environmental risk, which is how you assess the impact on the environment of an ever-changing and complex food supply chain. And the picture is Davide Gibin from the European Food Safety Authority.
Thank you, Simon. So, climate change is becoming more and more important for our life. Just to give you a few numbers, the livestock sector accounts for 14% of the total greenhouse gas emission, and this number will increase in the near future since the population will be around 8.5 billion in 2030, and it's already foreseen a shift, especially in Asian and African countries, to a more meat-based diet. So with this research, we develop a methodological framework that assess the environmental pollution and the demand of natural resources related to the food production and consumption. The framework is based on the different data sources and modeling tools. For example, as data sources, we use mainly for the food production the FAO database, for the food consumption, the EFSA consumption database, and regarding the environment, we use the water and carbon footprint. Instead, as modeling tools, we use both the input and output models based on national and global database, and also models that takes into account the biological processes and local conditions like climate or soil condition. So these are two of the possible output of the methodological framework. You can see on the left side there is a local based assessment. In order to produce the result that you see in the table, we use a model that simulate the biological and chemical processes of a farm, a livestock farm, and takes into account the local condition regarding the climate and soil. Instead, on the right, there is a country-based assessment. In this case, there is the environmental impact regarding the carbon and water footprint linked to the consumption of meat and meat product consumption. The data are derived from the EFSA consumption database that is publicly available. So, just to summarize the possible application and the context where the methodological framework can be used, can be very helpful for the policymaker in order to implement and to monitor new environmental policies, or can be also used to assess the environmental impact of dietary shift. And finally, can also be used in the remit of the introduction of new type of food, such as novel food, to evaluate the environmental impact in terms of carbon and water. So thank you, and if you would like to know more, please pass by my poster, number is 68. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Davide. That was excellent, very interesting. So from the environment, we're moving to the biological hazards area, and in particular, use of antimicrobials in sheep flocks at the time of lambing. So a large-scale survey on prophylactics use, which is quite interesting, I think. But anyway, oh, sorry. And it's Eliana Lima.
Yes. Hello. Hello, so yes, I'm Eliana Lim. I'm doing a PhD at the University of Nottingham. Few seconds of waiting. Should I try again? Sorry? Yes, the green one. Yeah, yeah. Could entertain them somehow. I should have an act prepared. Yes. Three? Yeah?
I've only got one.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll just present without. That's fine. Okay, so I'll just present without any slides. So basically, we know that we know that the UK is the largest producer of lamb meat in Europe, but we also know that there is not much data available on how sheep farmers manage their flocks, especially if we compare it to data available on poultry or pig production. With regards to the current concerns of antimicrobial resistance in meat and in livestock production, this lack of data came into light. So we carried out two surveys, one in 2016 with 700 farmers, and one in 2017 with 400 farmers, to collect data not only on general flock management, but also on antimicrobial usage and on farmers' opinions about antimicrobial resistance. We found out that in 2016, 30% of the farmers were using antibiotics in all animals of the flock, regardless of if they were healthy or ill. And of course, this can be a driver of the resistance. Moreover, we also found out that about 10% was using medicines not licensed for sheep. And of course, this has implications in terms of interpretations of the sales data if we just base our estimates on the sales data per species, we miss a bit this information that some of the antibiotics are actually being used in other species. About the farmers' opinions, I'll try to remember all the figures. So 38% of the farmers consider that it's okay to use antibiotics in all animals of the flock, which is quite surprising. 75% thought that they don't have a good image from the public, so that the public thinks that farmers use too many antibiotics. And only 48% thought that they could actually implement in the flock alternative measures to antibiotic usage. So this means that we probably do not only need to educate farmers in terms of the risks of antimicrobial resistance, but we also need to support them implementing these alternative measures, such as vaccination, for instance. If you want to know more, please come to the poster 148. Thank you.
Thanks, Eliana. I'm very sorry about the technical problems. But you did a great job. The voting is already closed on the favourite posters, but maybe we should consider giving Eliana a special prize for her improvisational skills. I'm assuming you weren't making those figures up. We'll check your poster. But well done. Anyway, we have another, the next pitch also concerns a survey. This one is from Edgar Pinto, University of Porto, and he's talking on iodine levels in cow's milk.
Good afternoon to everybody. So today's talk is about iodine levels in cow milk. So as you may know, iodine is an essential micronutrient for mammals. It is required for the synthesis of the thyroid hormones T3 and T4, which are key factors in metabolism regulation. In fetuses and in infants, T3 and T4 play a key role in the adequate growth, development, and maturation of many target tissues like the skeleton or the central nervous system. According to the World Health Organization, the iodine deficiency is the global preventable cause of, is the leading preventable cause of mental illness and development disorders. In 2011, about 44% of the European population had iodine in insufficient levels. However, despite this fact, several efforts have been made to reduce the iodine deficiency through the application of universal salt iodization programs. However, it remains a public health problem. In fact, the new advice said that you need to reduce the salt consumption, so the efficiency of these programs is a little bit controversial. Regarding the daily adequate intake of iodine, it varies throughout the life cycle from 40 micrograms per day at birth to around to 150 micrograms per day in adulthood. However, pregnant and lactating women have increased needs of 200 micrograms per day. So, cow milk can be an important source of iodine in Western diets. However, what we don't know exactly is that this concentration in milk, the iodine concentration in milk, depend on several factors, such as the iodine content in the feed, the time of the year where we collect the milk, farm management practices, milk processing, dairy industries, and other factors. So the aim of this work was to determine the iodine levels in cow milk from different European countries. We select these: Portugal, Italy, France, Germany, Spain, UK, and Poland. This is an ongoing study, but for now we have results for these countries. So what we have so far is that depending on the origin, on the country where we collect the milk, the iodine levels vary significantly. You have higher levels in the UK milk, about 438 micrograms per liter, then followed by Italy and Poland cow's milk with average values above 200 micrograms per liter, and then we have France, Portugal, Spain, and Germany with iodine levels below 200 micrograms per liter. However, if we consider average value, considering these results, you have 250 micrograms per liter, and if you consider that the average per capita daily consumption of cow milk by the European population is around 600 milliliters per day, you can get as much as 90% of your daily requirements. So, in fact, cow milk can be an important source of iodine in our diets. We go further on this study, and we also test the hypothesis that the fat content of the milk can influence the iodine levels, but we found no correlation between the fat content and the iodine levels in cow milk, wherever the origin is. So far, this is the results I have to present. If you have further questions or more questions about this, please come to poster number 192. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edgar. So from the nutrition area, we're now moving back to environment. I would like to invite up onto stage Lucia Škulková from Masaryk University in the Czech Republic to talk about pesticides in groundwater and agricultural land. Over to you, Lucia.
Thank you for introduction. I'm really glad to be here and to have this speech, which will be kind of short promo to a really important topic of environmental pesticide pollution. Over the last century, the growing population has resulted into increased demand for food and for agriculture intensification associated with increasing usage of pesticides. According to Food and Agriculture Organization, the pesticides consumption worldwide is about 3.3 million tons per year. This is for Europe 400,000 tons per year. And this is the huge amount of pesticides incorporated into the soil. These compounds are able, via leaching, to contaminate groundwaters. And this is a real problem, right? Because groundwaters are known to be a crucial source of drinking water supply for most of European countries. And whereas the pesticides are known to be toxic, and they are known to be present in soil and consequently in groundwaters in mixtures of whose effects we really know almost nothing, the presence of these pesticides and their cocktails in soils and groundwaters may pose serious environmental and health risks. Therefore, the monitoring of pesticides in soils and groundwaters should be a common practice in every culture, in every country, to prevent these risks. For this reason, Masaryk University, in cooperation with several other institutions, have prepared monitoring study where we have monitored 50 pesticides compounds in over 100 arable soils and in over 400 shallow groundwater sites of Czech Republic. And if you would like to know the results of this monitoring study, you are welcome to visit our poster number 102, where we can discuss this topic in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. And we're back geographically, at least, to where we started today, this evening, which is Scotland. You might have noticed that Tony and I aren't scientists. We're communications specialists, and therefore I can say without any real shame that I don't have any idea what in situ spectral sensing is. And I'm looking forward to hearing what it's all about from Puneet Mishra of the University of Strathclyde.
So what is in situ is like something which you can have in your hand. You can go to a site, like if you want to go to a restaurant, you want to know what is in your food, you can make the measurement at the site, and this thing is known as in situ measurements. And what here I am presenting is what is the basic behind this kind of technologies which we have is it depends on the lights. We in the lights have different spectrums, different part of spectrum. For us humans, mainly we can see different colors, but we cannot go far from that. But if we go far from the regions from visible, we can see in the near infrared region mainly, there are different chemical signatures we can see with the sensors. So this is not very new. Analysis of food with this kind of sensor is very old. It was almost started 30 years ago. But the main limitation was the sensors were very big and they were limited to the laboratories. Then, like after the evolution of more computing things, the sensors become cheaper. They become more portable. But now in the recent age, like from the 1 or 2 years in advancement in optics, we have the very small sensors. You can see like the small sensors, which can be connected with your mobile phones over the Bluetooth. And you can acquire the data from this kind of sensors at the real time, wherever you go. So maximally what you need from this kind of sensor is you take the sensor in your hand and you measure over the food, and you can get the information about this food in your mobile phone, where you have the models which you developed before from analysis, and you can predict some chemical profiles in it, and you can make some judgments on the quality of the foods. So this kind of sensors can give you rapid access to the chemical information in your food products. They can help you in industrial controlling the processes of food manufacturing. They can also help like the regulating agencies for food monitoring purposes. And also they can have like everyday consumer to find out what is in their food and to make like better decisions about their diets. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the Marie Curie Fellowship, which allowed me to do this work, and EFSA to contribute to this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Puneet. I think I can speak for most of us that at least now I understand a bit about in situ spectral analysis, and it sounds really interesting. So just to wrap up, thank you to everybody in the hall who's come here to listen to the pitchers. Thank you to the pitchers, all 21, so that was the 7 today and the other 14 from days 1 and 2. Thanks also to people who've been watching us on Twitter. And thanks also for voting. I hope you all voted in the poster pitches as well. And sorry? Oh yes, and thanks also to the people who helped organize the session, Johanna, Muriel, and also to the technicians behind, to Nick as well. Thanks to all of you guys, and really excited to find out who is going to win the best poster at tomorrow's session, so stay tuned for that. Okay, thank you and good night and have a nice evening.